local authors, publishing industry stakeholders, and writers about the literary arts, about their books, about their love of the written word. And thank you for being here with us today on our journey again, chatting with local authors. And today we have a very special author today, a regional author and publisher, and we will be chatting with Mr. Robert Gibson, and he is the CEO and founder of Passionate Words Editing Services. He's the author of 7 books in the erotic genre, and one of the books is called Erotic. There's Seduction, there's Passion, The Gemini Project, there's Offering, Quotes of Passion, Make It Rain, and lastly, The Sacred Journey Uni Journal. And he's the 2016 NIFCA Bronze Award winner, as well as the 2011 NIFCA Silver Award winner, as well as the Most Promising Poet prize. He is published in several regional and international anthologies, as well as he appears on open mics all over the world. Mr. Robert Gibson, welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. It's so lovely to have you here with us today on Book Club Corner. This is the first time we've had you, yes?
Yes, yes, it's very good to be here as well. Yes, this is the first time, so I'm all excited.
I'm super excited because every time I interview or chat with a Bajan, right? And I have to add in
Mhm.
fellow Bajan because I was there so long. The
Yes,
Bajans
you're
told
honorary
me,
Major.
yeah, they basically told me, girl, forget about that Trini passport. You got a Bajan passport now.
The
Oh
Major accent
gosh.
ain't too bad.
I'm
You
telling
must
you,
be,
I
you're
gotta
getting there. You're
every
getting there.
time.
It's not bad.
All right then. Well, I'm taking that. So where exactly in Barbados are you, Robert?
Where am I?
Yes.
We are in the We're in St. Thomas. We're in the middle of the island. So we basically uh, I I I work from home
Mm-hmm.
pretty much. But I also, if I need to meet people, we meet in a location where it's necessary for them to where you can see each other. But most of what I do is digital, so most of what I do is online. Um, Especially since I have international clients as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I Zoom is my friend. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I really love that. And yes, those are some of the perks of one, working for yourself, being an entrepreneur, and two, of
Mhm.
having the type of business that you can be online with. And being a publisher, an editor,
Mhm.
certainly you don't need to be tied to any one location. You can work from anywhere. So you're literally in the industry of digital nomads, yes?
This is true.
Yeah.
I was being we'll talk about my books in a sec, but I was last year I was invited to perform in in Cleveland, Ohio, for an erotic show, and I stayed for 2 extra weeks and did some work. And people, I had a whole interview with our newspaper, and no one knew that I was in Ohio. I was I worked like if I was home.
Yes, those are some of the things that I really love about the type of work that we do, being a writer, being a publisher, doing book marketing. You can do it from anywhere. I've had people ask me, "Oh, where's your business located?" I say, "Where do you need me to be?"
Yes.
Yeah, where do you need me
I
to
usually
be?
tell
I'm
people
there.
I usually tell people that I'm right next door.
I love that. How is the weather in Barbados today?
Right now, nice and sunny,
Uh,
breezy is a nice beautiful day in Barbados.
I tell you, I really miss just being able to drive almost everywhere in Barbados and see that ocean, that turquoise blue coming at you from almost, 360 degrees. I really, really enjoyed it. Robert, we're going on a quick break. But when we come back,
No problem.
we're getting into your work and your books as the CEO and founder of Passionate Words Editing Services. Yeah? So we're going on a quick break, Robert. Viewers, get yourself comfy, get your snack, get your drink. We are coming right back, and we have a publisher here with us today. So if you have any information that you want to get about self-publishing, this is the episode for you. See you in a few minutes.
Welcome to the Buku Seafood and Jazz Festival on April 19th, 2025. We invite you to an evening of smooth rhythms and soulful music as the sun dips behind Buku Bay. Let all your senses be tantalized. Enjoy an array of seafood dishes, browse crafts and designs created by local artisans, and lose yourself in the soulful melodies of John Sakata, Brian McKnight,
It's undeniable that we should be together.
Vonnet Bigford,
When the lightning crack the waters and the waves roll and break.
Mikal Teja,
Else I go, without you, my God.
and the best of Tobago's talent. Get your physical tickets now. Tickets are also available online at islandetickets.com. Visit TobagoFestivalsCommission.com for more info or call 639-4441. The Buku Seafood and Jazz Festival, April 19th at Buku Integrated Facility. Tobago Rhythm and Soul Festival 2025. Feel the beat. Embrace the calm. The Tobago Rhythm and Soul Festival. Feel the beat. Embrace the calm. On Easter weekend 2025, Tobago is the place to be. From April 17th to 20th, the rhythm, the soul of Tobago. On Thursday, April 17th, get ready for a worship experience at the Shore Park Complex with melodies from heaven. Melodies from heaven. Then on Saturday, 19th April, immerse yourself in the sun, sea, and sand at the Buku Seafood and Jazz Festival, featuring legends of R&B. On Sunday, 20th April, we bring the curtains down at Parade Grounds, Dwight York Stadium for Fusion. Get your tickets on islandetickets.com now or visit TobagoFestivalsCommission.com for more info. Tobago Rhythm and Soul Festival 2025. Feel the beat. Embrace the calm.
And welcome back to Book Club Corner, where every Wednesday, right here in beautiful Scarborough, Tobago, we chat with regional, international, and local authors about their work and about the written word. And today we have with us an amazing author. His name is Robert Gibson, and he is from Barbados, right? A Bajan publisher, editor, and writer. Robert, when we talk about your genre, which is erotic, right? Tell us about how people receive it. Tell us about that initial look on people's face when you say, yeah, I write in the erotic genre. Tell us about that.
Well, that is extremely hilarious to me. You ask that question, and I start to laugh, right? Now, first, let's start by saying Barbados is traditionally a very conservative country. Okay, it is a very conservative country on the surface. What that means is when people hear that I do erotica, they clutch their pearls, right? They clutch their pearls they're like, "Oh my god!" And like
Ah,
so over the years, I've been doing this now like 13 years or so, and so I've run the gamut from having people see my work on book tables. I would be at events and I have my books, and I'd see people. One particular event always comes stands out to me where I was on the end of a long line of different authors, and children's books were there and spiritual books were there. I was at the end, so everybody's like, "Oh, nice book," picking up this book and one particular lady stands out to me. She picked up, I think it was actually this book. We're trying to make sure you can see it. Erotic,
yeah.
which is my first one. And she literally picked it up. She turned, she looked at it and she dropped it like if it was gonna burn her.
Oh my gosh, let me tell you. Listen, that I think is a common thing with us in the Caribbean. I guess the reaction may vary from island to island, but invariably people, start to, oh my God, what's going on here? But after they pass that initial shock, tell us about the reception your books have been receiving.
Well, my books get like again, Barbadian people are extremely. I am going to be very controversial and say that they're extremely hypocritical. Yes,
Yeah.
because they would say this. They'll be very. They don't want to read my books out loud. I had a publisher, a book. He owns rather a bookstore, and I told him about getting my book in there. And he again, older gentleman, you understand, clutching pearls and being all, and I left him alone. That being said, as we've said, the books have received um, awards. The books have received. I've been invited overseas to perform. I have people all in Kenya that love my work and love my voice. Just hearing just hearing that poetic baritone come through, it has really over the years I've gotten lots and lots of accolades, lots and lots of people interested. And again, because it's erotica, I'm recognizing that women's biggest erogenous zone is their minds, is mental. Believe me when I say I can give stories. This is not the space for that, but story to people all over the world.
Mhm.
One time I read a poem. I had an interview just like this for a lady in the US, and she was interviewing me, and she went on break and told me she had to go on break because she was becoming too aroused on the people on the people interview, and she had to calm down.
That is when you are an excellent writer. That's when you're good at your job. And I have to say, if you were not good at your job, that would not have been the response. You know,
Indeed.
this is something we've always been dealing with. People with their mills and boons, with a regular book covering it, right? We're not the sort to be lying on the beach or on a bus with a mills and boons, right? Showing the cover for everybody to know what you're reading. We like to have that.
But they're going to read it. But
Yes,
that's where I say the hypocrisy comes in. You're going to be looking at me and saying I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that. But at the end of the day, Zane sells here. Eric Jerome Dickey sells here. You understand? And people, hell, that ludicrous 50 Shades of Grey series sold here,
it's
and
just
that's a bunch of
ludicrous.
anyway. That really is not a good book or a good representation of erotica, but it sells like
Yes.
hotcakes. But yet, local erotica, regional erotica has a hard time breaking the industry, and I think that's a bunch of foolishness. Honestly,
I think that is that speaks to our socialization and our culture here in the Caribbean. And as you put it so succinctly to say hypocritical. And on the other side of that coin, we understand that we have been moving the needle slowly, I believe, from where we are inhibited, right? And where we feel that, this is not something we are able to talk about in public. It's too taboo to bring out in public. But it is part of our sexuality as people. And I went to a workshop on last week, Friday, and we had there a specialist who is getting into talking about sexuality and how we are. And she says, from the womb to the tomb, we are sexual beings. And when we talk about it like that, we immediately go mentally to a space where, this is one of those steamy movies, right? Somebody is without apparel doing what, you're only supposed to do in the dark. And we have to start talking about the way we are sexual beings and how this is not something that we pull out from the cupboard at night, right? Dust off. This is our being morning, noon, and night. And this has not all to do with the sexual act, but it has a lot to do with how we interact with each other, how we touch each other, how we talk to each other, intimacy, the questions we ask each other, the way we interpret what people may say to us and what we say to people. So it has a lot to do with when you're in your fully closed state as well. It's not an event that only happens, at night in the dark without clothes. It's something that happens every day, all day. Yeah? Talk to us about that on your books.
No, I totally agree with you. I always say to people, my wordplay is my foreplay. That's one of my taglines, right? And I'll well, not really interject, but I'll just say that as a spoken word artist and poet, my stage name is Passion Poet, and that's for a reason, right? And so, to be honest, as I say, my wordplay is my foreplay. And for me, erotica, you are absolutely correct. Erotica is not just about what is done in the sexual act. It starts way before that, right? And I've recognized, again, this is probably going to be a controversial statement in a conservative Caribbean, but in my opinion, sexual energy is equal to creative energy, which is also equal to God energy, right? As far as I am concerned, and in my worldview, both sensual and creative energy come from the same source, which in Christian mythos is God. You call it God, source, universe, whatever the case may be, but all of that is linked. It is the same source. And I will say that because of that, when I do a piece of poetry, we use erotic poetry, it really is not all about the physical act or physical responses to the act. Yes, when I am reciting or I'm performing, especially as I'm doing it as male presenting to mostly female presenting, I want you to react. I want your body to respond. Yes, I want you to get wet. But ultimately, under all of that, I want you to understand and see that when I am speaking to you as a man to a woman, I'm trying to let you see that I see you as beautiful. I see you not only as sexual, but I see you as a woman. I had a performance at Open Mic years ago where I did a poem called Empress. And when I finished that poem, although it had erotic elements, the lady who was hosting the show, she looked at the ladies and said, don't you feel empowered? So when I do a piece, I usually merge and link spirituality within the sensuality in some of my pieces, but all of my pieces are empowering. All of my pieces make you as a woman feel feminine, make you as a woman feel desired without it being crass. Although I'm using sexual language and poetic language, those things are done specifically to make you feel a desired woman more so than I'm not. It's not the equivalent of passing the street and a man, psst, psst, giving you all that.
Yeah, yeah.
Is complete.
I love that, what you said, that feeling of empowerment. And sometimes we may not quite understand when we use this word because it's a buzzword right now, right? Empowerment,
Yes,
this and empowerment, that. But being and feeling empowered is talking about a person really bringing all the parts of themselves and
yes,
living those parts of themselves fully at all times, right? And not compartmentalizing and putting this piece away and putting that piece away. And that, I think,
exactly.
is one of the things that, if we understand, as you're putting it, this empowerment, even as we're talking about women, we're looking at empowered in terms of being able to self-actualize and to activate your femininity if you so feel to do so, if you so choose to do so. And I think that
Yes,
is
exactly.
one of the important things that we have to navigate as women in the world today, where sometimes we are asked to be more masculine. We have to fall into masculine roles. And sometimes we may feel stuck there because it may, and when we say masculine roles, viewers, I don't want you to get the misunderstanding that we're talking about gender roles and social norms. What we're talking about is that masculine energy, right? And the masculine energy is one of the get it done, result,
Have to take
what's
charge,
happening.
have to make logical decisions,
Yes.
all of that.
And
When not just, and it's not to say that that's not, again, I'm taking your point. It's not to say that those things aren't important. You have women who run households. You have women who are leaders in their fields. But when do you get a chance to be feminine? When do you get a chance to put all that down and just be a woman? You understand? And that is it. Like there's one of my partners. I said to her, I want you to take the armor off. I said, you are safe. You are here with me. You are safe. Take the armor off. You don't have to be. You don't have to fight anymore. That's what I'm here for.
right. I
And
really love
a
that.
lot of women don't have that, or they don't see that.
And we look at each person, and sometimes when we talk about being masculine and feminine, we think you can only be this one thing. And I do believe that we are existing in a dual world. Each person has that duality about ourselves. Each person has that masculine and feminine energy. But sometimes, you have a little more of one and needing a little more of the other from time to time. But we all have that duality. The Asian culture, the Eastern culture talks about that yin and yang, and we need to be able to bring out that masculine energy and pull it back in when we don't need it, and to bring in that feminine energy when we need it. And I think that duality of it, and the feminine energy, is not only about sexuality, right? It
No, it is
has
not.
so much about it. Even in your workplace, that feminine energy is being used, the way you're able
Right, and I
to
mean
talk to
to
people
switch
and to
topics.
communicate. Yeah.
Right, no, and I agree with you. And to say the fact, this now I'm speaking to all of my male viewers who are going to be listening and watching this. Having feminine energy, you are as Joel says, we are dual beings, which means you have feminine energy within you as well, which does not mean it is negating your masculinity, right? I write from my feminine energy. You understand? Writing the softness, that comes out of my poetry comes from the feminine, comes from the divine feminine within me. I cannot. I am not. I always tell women this. I am not a woman. I cannot give you permission, but maybe I can give you space. I just the whole purpose of what I do as fashion poet is to give you a space to be feminine. I can't make you. I can't be. I would be very presumptuous to try to look at you and say I'm giving you permission to be a woman. I can't do that.
Yep.
But because when you come into the space, right? The passionate words editing services is my business side, but I do have a brand for my poetry, and it's called the Erotic Empire. And when you come under the Erotic Empire by reading any of my books, by watching my videos, or doing anything concerning passion poet, you're in a space where you are free to be a woman. And and you're in the reason for doing what I'm doing is not only from the feminine side, but it's to give men the opportunity to understand that they can talk to a woman in a different way than crass. They don't have to be crass. They don't have to be, because lots of women tell me they are afraid to walk the street. I mean, my masculine, my male privilege is going to show right now. But when they told me that, I was flabbergasted. I was like, what? And when they broke it down to me, like, women have to be very careful what they wear. They have to be like everything. The reason why I told my partner to take the armor off is because she basically armors herself every single day. Most women armor themselves to go out into the world. And, like, they told me about things like wearing headsets. They're not listening to music. They just want you to think they are so that you don't harass them. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I did not know all this was going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so in a sense, I do have, most of my poetry, on like 97%, is erotic. But as I say in my pieces, there's a piece that I perform when I start all my performances with an introductory piece, and in it I say passion isn't always sex. So I have poems about anger, frustration, sadness, all of that. And I do have a poem called the Wind of a Thousand Whispers that represents women standing up for themselves, and all these different voices standing up for themselves against things like domestic violence, and against things like, all these things that women have to deal with that as a man I don't have to think about too often. Not to say that men don't get abused, so don't come for me, but I know that majority it is skewed towards women way more than men. So, I can understand why when they explain to me, this is how I have to live. This is how I have, every woman on the planet knows these certain cues that would tell another woman that they're in danger. I am literally in shock not knowing any of this stuff, because it doesn't affect me, but it has to affect me from the perspective of, I live in the same world as you. I have to make sure that I want to be an ally. I can't be, the unfortunate thing I also know is that on a certain level, a lady said to me, you can never be an ally, because the people that affect and harass and assault are 99% of the time somebody that we already know. So you can't be an ally in that respect. So it leaves me with, all I can do is write, and all I can do is empathize. All I can do is provide the space when the opportunity arises to, I cannot live your experience, but I have understood enough to be here for you if you need it.
Yeah. I listen. We're getting so into this conversation because, coming off of International Women's Day and the topic at hand. But, Robert, I have to say that I think men are allies for women in the women's rights struggle. And I believe that women are allies for men in their struggle against negative masculinity and that belief that to be a man you must be hard. I think we have to free each other because we are each other's captors, right? Women put men in a box, and that box looks like you have to be hard, you have to know everything, you have to make decisions, make the money, be the bread, and men put women in a box as well. And I think if we were to free each other, that's how we become allies, to make sure that, as you say, we create that space for each other to be more expansive and to be more empowered. I'm really enjoying this conversation. Robert, we're going on a quick break, but when we get back, we are going to be talking and getting into your work as a publisher, talking about how we are dealing with self-publishing here in the Caribbean, not just in Trinidad and Tobago or Barbados, but the entire Caribbean, because you deal with a lot of international clients, regional clients as well. And what are we doing with the book publishing, the self-publishing industry? We're going on a quick break. We'll be back. Get yourself some snacks, get your drink, come right back to Book Club Corner, where we'll be chatting here again with Mr. Robert Gibson, a publisher from Barbados.
TNTech is pleased to advise that its Roxborough Service Center has reopened. Starting Monday, 10th March, customers can once more visit the Roxborough Administrative Building to pay TNTech bills, request new connections, and more. TNTech, powering the nation into the next generation.
You've heard a voice on the radio, seen her in your worship, and have sung her songs during your time of praise. Sinesh.
Everybody now, let's go!
Sinesh comes to Tobago for Melodies from Heaven on April 17th. The Shore Park Complex alights with praise and worship from 6 p.m. for Melodies from Heaven featuring Sinesh.
I shall not want the Lord has provided.
Samuel Maydess.
You'll be the only one who's excited to call your name.
Positive.
Me never could have changed my mind.
Blessed Messenger.
Give blood of Jesus over your family.
Renee Fortune and many more.
From my head to my feet.
Get your physical tickets now. Tickets are also available online at islandetickets.com. Visit TobagoFestivalsCommission.com for more info or call 639-4441. April 17th at Shore Park Complex. Melodies from Heaven. Tobago Rhythm and Soul Festival 2025. Feel the beat. Embrace the calm.
Today on Book Club Corner, chatting with the CEO and founder of Passionate Words Editing Services from Barbados, and his name is Robert Gibson. Welcome back, Robert.
Hi, welcome back. Thank you so much for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. Listen, the conversation has been interesting, intriguing, hot and steamy. I tell you, getting into the little hypocritic cracks of the Caribbean and who we are while, liberating ourselves and being empowered. But we want to get into you as a writer, as a publisher, as an editing service and with that keen eye to edit work. Tell me how you got into being an editor and starting your business.
Well, I started my business by starting my books before I even thought about doing a business. I was self-publishing, so all 7 of my books are self-published, and I so that meant that I learned the hard way, so to speak, about how to edit and how to self-publish. I I had, I guess you could say, yes, you went to YouTube and figured out how to do stuff, but basically it was, I did everything on my own. And what happened? So I started my first book, which you saw on the screen there, Erotic. That was my first book, released in 2013, right? Erotic. That one was released in 2013, and that was and to be honest, that book started because I was performing poetry at the time, and everybody was like, so after doing it for a couple of years, people are like, "What? When's your book coming out? When's your book coming out?" I had never thought about writing a book, so I had years and years and years of poetry in my files, and they said, "Oh, you want a book?" I sat down, so I pulled Erotic together in an hour. I had the book started because I had been to a lecture. I had been to a lecture about the power of the erotic. Audre Lorde, who wrote about the erotic a lot, and this lecture was about her, and that sort of, I was already an erotic writer by that time, but it inspired me, and my book Erotic was done in an hour. I pulled it together and figured out how to put it up and all that. So that's how I started writing my books. But then, my literary mentor, I call her Lit Mom, my literature mother, Sandra Seeley. She was she used to run what we had when I was a teenager. There was a collective of writers that used to meet every month at the Barbados Museum. And when she took over the helm, she had me as a featured writer at that event. That was the first time that I'd ever been a feature of anything. At that point in time, I was like 19, 20 years old, and she became a mentor to me. And after a while of editing my own books, she said, "Why don't you edit for somebody else? Why don't you edit for other people?" And honestly, she had been telling me that for like 2 years before I started the company. I had a lot of imposter syndrome. I refused to do it. I was like, I don't know how to edit for anybody else. I don't even know how to cost or price for this thing. I did do some research online, but it didn't make any sense. But about 2 years later, after that, after she was pressing me, I officially started in like 2017. In 2017, I had one single job, which was given to me by another publisher. She had a huge book that she needed a second set of eyes on, and so I sub edited for her. So that was my first job. But things were like really, really slow. And, I was still working at the time. I was working in government at the time. So Passionate Words was sort of still a passion project, forgive the pun. But then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, we all went home. But because I was in the IT sector, I was still considered, essential service. It was not essential service in terms of health, but in terms of our company and our company connectivity. I was still part of the IT team, and therefore we were always on call, even if we were not on the street. So we had to make sure that the especially the C-suite, the general manager and all the other big ups in the company had access to their data. What that meant was I was still doing passionate words stuff on the side, but what that meant was I had the opportunity to really dial in and to work on passionate words and work on editing. So I always had two laptops open. I had the company laptop open to check the databases and to be on call, but I also had my personal laptop right next to it. And while I was on call, I was still at work. But when I was not actually working, I was editing for other people. And that happened all 2020 until two things happened simultaneously. I got a major job from a client from the US, and that job gave me enough money. I was being given about it was about $4,000 in Barbados money, and she was not giving it to me all at once. She was breaking it up into 3 or 4 installments, which meant that I was able to get like $1,000 per month for a little while. So, and while that was happening, my job and I parted ways. So my main job and I parted ways, and I was able to segue into doing passionate words full time. So I left corporate in September of 2020 and immediately just started grinding, passionate words grinding. And now 5 years later, this is where we are.
Yes. This is a lot of, you're hearing this similar story and this similar trend from a lot of entrepreneurs. We're doing the entrepreneurship journey as a side hustle, as they call it. And then COVID came and kicked you out, right, of your comfort zone. And here we
Very
are.
much.
A lot of entrepreneurs were, hedging their bets. I'll stay in my job and be secure with this income. And as they put it, God of the universe came and said, nope, no, you're not. Get out there and do the work that you're meant to be doing. So I want to thank you. Or maybe we should thank COVID, right?
Yes.
For kicking you out there and getting you started, because that's one of the things that the self-publishing industry in the Caribbean always has an issue with. Not enough, know where to go to get editing work done, to get their book covers done, to find illustrators. We don't have that, what we would call that pool to be able to know where, I can go there, I can go there. It's always this, well, where do I go? I have to go around the place, kind of like if you're asking for weed, right? It's this, does anybody know? You know anybody? Anybody at all? It shouldn't be like that, this hidden kind of way that we're doing this self-publishing work. I think we need a database, Robert. We need to come together and put together a database of where we can find everything in one space so that people can start, feeling more comfortable to get into self-publishing.
Well, yeah, I'm down for that. I'll say that one, I'm down for that. Two, I know there are some people who do. There are some databases, but they're not. There's not one that is Caribbean wide. I know, for example, in Barbados, the National Cultural Foundation has a database not only of publishers specifically, but what they call the cultural practitioners. And so you can go to the NCF and speak to them and talk about, you want something you want a particular artist for a particular job. They can provide. I've gotten several editing jobs from the NCF. They would like people call the NCF and I need an editor, and they would send them to me. right? So that happens. But it would be nice to have one on a more international scale, a website that people could go to, that is
Yeah.
that that is like Caribbean or international rather than just local. I know that there are other people we connect. I see people in Trinidad doing the shout outs to Warm Momentum Publishing, and they're doing some good stuff over there in Trinidad, and a couple others that I know of as well over there. But yeah, it'd be nice to have something Caribbean wide.
Yes, I have to agree because we do have in Trinidad and Tobago the artist registry, and that allows persons to register themselves and to document what their skill sets are. There was recently, I think about a week ago, there was a artist registry sensitization session that happened in the library in Port of Spain. But one of the things that we don't have is that regional database, and I think we need to look at that. Robert, I'm going to be giving you a call for us to get into that because we need to disrupt this self-publishing industry as it exists. It's not sufficient. It hasn't been serving us the best in the best way possible, and I think we can make it more efficient and make the self-publishing not just easier but more competitive, as well as make sure the standard that you get when you go to the traditional publishing route, there's rigor and there's some standardization in terms of what people are expecting. Robert, we're going on a quick break, but when we come back, you're going to be reading for us and we're going to be talking about your mega launch event. And that is something that I think is much needed in the Caribbean. So we're going on a quick break. When we come back, we'll be continuing to chat with Mr. Robert Gibson from Barbados Passionate Words Editing Services, his mega book launch, and he's going to be reading for us. So see you in a few minutes.
The Tobago Rhythm and Soul Festival. Feel the beat. Embrace the calm. On Easter Weekend 2025, Tobago is the place to be from April 17th to 20th. The Rhythm, the Soul of Tobago. On Thursday, April 17th, get ready for a worship experience at the Shore Park Complex with Melodies from Heaven. Melodies from Heaven. Then on Saturday, 19th April, immerse yourself in the sun, sea, and sand at the Buku Seafood and Jazz Festival, featuring legends of R&B. On Sunday, 20th April, we bring the curtains down at Parade Grounds, Dwight York Stadium for Fusion. Get your tickets on islandetickets.com now or visit TobagoFestivalsCommission.com for more info. Tobago Rhythm and Soul Festival 2025. Feel the beat. Embrace the calm.
TNTech is pleased to advise that its Roxborough Service Center has reopened. Starting Monday, 10th March, customers can once more visit the Roxborough Administrative Building to pay TNTech bills, request new connections, and more. TNTech, powering the nation into the next generation.
When the game is on, you don't want to miss the best moments. With AMPLIA TV, you can enjoy our ultimate sports package and watch your favorite games on the go. Stay connected and informed with sports news, scores, and stats with AMPLIA's fastest internet speeds. Up to 1 gigabyte fiber internet, you can stream riveting football action, cricket, NBA games, and much more. With AMPLIA, it's game on. Visit amplia.co.tt or call 800-4663. AMPLIA. Do more, live more.
Welcome back to Book Club Corner. I'm your host, Jewel Green, and we've been chatting with the amazing author, publisher from Barbados, Mr. Robert Gibson. Welcome back, Robert.
Hi, thank you.
And you're going to be reading for us. I'm going to get myself in a comfy position because I want you to surprise me. I don't know how or what you're going to be reading, but let me just say, viewers, this may not be for all ears.
Well, this is the thing. I try to I try to be very careful what I perform or read. So this one, it is not going to be one of those most steamy ones. I mean, I could do that if you wanted, but no. This piece, first thing first, this is the last book of poetry that I did. It was done in 2019. This is Passion, the Gemini Project. Up until that time, I had only been releasing books of erotic poetry and my novel Make It Rain, which has lots and lots and lots of sex scenes in it. However, as I tell people, take the sex scenes out of take the sex scenes out of the novel. You have a solid actual storyline. It's not just porn like my parents my parents tell me I write porn. You know, so I mean, but it's not just porn. Like in the movie, the novel itself is of self actualization, where the main character has to realize he's come to a point where he's literally sitting on Hackleton's cliff and having do I want to continue in the life that I'm living? And that is the whole purpose of the book. Yes, there's a lot of sex scenes, but if you take those sex scenes out, that is the crux of the book. But I wrote, but coming to that, up until 2019, people were saying, "Well, that's all you write. I want to hear more about you." And I said, "Oh, I'm trying to make you happy, but you want to cry? You want to cry as well? Okay, we got." So this book is written specifically. I'm a Gemini. June 8th is my birthday. I'm a Gemini. Gemini is the two-sided side. If you want to see more than just the erotic side, there is the other side of me. Now, so this book is split into two parts. The pleasure, which is the very hot pieces, and then the pain, which are poems that I never released in public before. The poems that I wrote for myself to as therapy, as catharsis. So there are poems in here that I'd never released before. Poems about what's the word I'm looking for? Self-image, right? People looking at you in a certain way. You have to think about poems that I used when I went through my divorce, that I wrote about healing from my divorce and that kind of thing, or rather not even healing at the time. When I wrote them, I was literally spilling my pain onto this page so that I could survive. And I wrote this, and so I put these poems together, the pleasure and the pain, and I released the book to the public. What happened was this book got the inaugural award for the book of the year when my friends DJ Simmons and his wife Empress Zinga released. They started in 2020 the Going On Awards, right? Going On, as anybody from Barbados, what Going On is
Yep.
our it's how we greet each other. What's going on? How you doing? So the Going On Awards is celebration of Bajan art and Bajan culture, and so literally it's our Emmys, it's our Grammys, is you coming together and showcasing Bajan artists and showcasing Bajan culture. So this book won the inaugural book of the year. And I was surprised because I didn't do it. I didn't know. The book, how it is done every year. The organizers don't pick the winners. The people pick the winners. It's like a huge People's Choice Awards kind of thing. Somebody, I had no idea who nominated the book, but I have no idea who nominated the book. It went through the thing and it came out to win. And people who reviewed the book, they said not just seeing the sexual aspects, but seeing other aspects of who I am was refreshing. Okay, all of that is preamble. And it's one of my favorite pieces in this book. And I wrote it because as an erotic writer, people have an idea of what erotic writers are supposed to look like, right? You have the romancy and you have the romance genre, and erotica is a part of the romance genre. But when you pick up a romance novel, you see, or your male character is usually buff. He's usually broad chested, and the the man's
Yeah.
man kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's a mafia boss, or he's a even if he's a farmer's hand, he is huge. He looks like he looks
Yes,
like he
that
could pick you up
glistening
and break.
chest. Yes.
Right. So that's what women have in their mind when they think of erotica. So this story happened when I had just performed a piece, and when coming off, I overheard these two ladies talking to themselves, and they said, "I don't know how I'm trying." Obviously, I don't know the kind of I don't know the kind of audience. I have to be very careful how I say this. But they basically said, I would give him some if he didn't look like that. Now I am not 6 foot. I am not broad chested. I am not a farmer's hand. What people when they look at me, they will see one or two
Yeah.
things. They'll say, you're either a teddy bear or a dad bod, right? I know that dad bods are sexy depending on who you look at. I am not a farmer's hand. Okay, the most thing I have going for me is probably my locks. Okay, I know this. But that, but
Oh,
that, but that, but that really annoyed me, and I sat down and I wrote this. So this piece is called "Oops," and let's get into it. I'll try to for the one part that is the one or two parts that are have offensive language. I'll try to skip over them.
okay.
So this is called "Oops." Oops. Oops. Excuse me. Your superficiality is showing. Better close your lips. Shh. I don't need to be knowing the color of your bitter soul. Start pulling your Freudian slip back down off your hips. Because with everything you're saying, you're just exposing more and more of your assumptions. Stop flapping, letting us see all your business, because you're not good with concealing the wedgie caused by having your panties all in a bunch. The problem is this. I already suspected your shallowness. Your mistake was speaking, opening your mouth, and thus effectively erasing all doubt. But before you mute, tell me, what exactly does an erotic poet look like? You whisper behind hands that if my abs were flat and tight, that I would be appealing. That based upon the type of words I'm spitting, my physique should resemble a Greek god. Maybe Adonais? Well, I'm sorry that my looks don't rock your boat. Just know that every quote I drop is meant to lubricate your mental labia, to make you feel sexy, even juicy. So exterior appeal is not as important to me as it seems to be to you. Beauty to me is an internal affair. My words are meant to excite your soul, not just your body. Don't get me wrong. I do want to make your body hum too. I want every word I speak to strum sensual rhythms across your sex, voicing incantations that put bewitching hex upon your mind and make you come. Making you dare to strip off sopping underwear for comfort's sake. But for sake, you can't get wet because you can't get set eyes upon a set of bulging pecs, then that isn't my problem. It's yours. I don't write for you, live for you, or do 3 sets of sit-ups hoping you accept my pen or my penis. This is not a popularity contest. I've done too much growing, knowing that changing myself to please others just doesn't effing work. But know that you might miss out on a trip around the world my tongue can take you on, as tales of lust are spun with skill until your body hums with the attention I give your secret places, as I place my pinkness deep inside your wetness. But oops! Excuse me, your superficiality is showing. You will go to your grave never knowing the type of loving you could get from this poet. All because the packaging doesn't meet society's ideal of beauty. Trust me. But tell me, are you all you want to be sexually? Do you look at yourself and say, damn, I'm fine? Do you? Do you? Because I do. And that's that piece.
Robert, we don't have enough time to dissect that piece. But my goodness, we're looking at so many themes and motifs coming out in there. The way that we are looking at ourselves and measuring our physical appearances, the comparison between what perhaps we should be looking like and what we actually look like, right? You know, what you order from online versus what you get when you order it from Alibaba, right? And you know, those kinds of dichotomies and differences are some of the things that keep us back from really getting to know people and looking under the hood versus just wanting a sleek, shiny new car. You know, does it even work? And those are some of the things you're bringing forward. Let me tell you, we're going to have another conversation, Robert, because this here, I think this is for nighttime. I think this is for not just because it's dark, but because that's when the children are asleep.
I have no problem with that.
You got to get into
I always have to. The thing about it is, as an erotic poet, I always have to be very cognizant of what pieces I do, even when in situations like this. I didn't like speak to you beforehand to ask how deep I could go, what's my limit.
Yeah.
So because I didn't do that, I decided let me be conservative. But believe me when I say,
yeah,
I love to have those opportunities where I can let loose and just be. And for those of you who want it, if you want it, you can have it. You can have it.
I love it.
Definitely.
Robert, let us get into your mega book launch because you know this conversation.
No problem.
We don't want to miss out on some of these great things that you've been doing with your publishing house, right? So tell us quickly about this mega book launch. We have a few minutes to talk about it, and
that's fine.
How beneficial
yes.
And important was this mega book launch to self-publishing authors?
Well, first and foremost, it was greatly appreciated. The inaugural mega book launch and showcase was held on November 24th last year. We decided that we were going to make it an annual event, and it's always going to be the Sunday before Barbados's independence. Barbados's independence is on November 30th, and so what we're going to do is going forward is every single the Sunday beforehand we're always going to have the mega book launch. So the mega book launch and showcase is of time to what we wanted to do was highlight. First thing first, we wanted to highlight people who came passionate words, and we wanted them to be featured. So any books that were released in 2024 and we chose to do so ended up being the featured authors of the event. We had two featured authors, Reverend Buddy Laria and a lady who goes by the pseudonym Genevieve Arisen. And Reverend is a well-known in Barbados. His work with mental health, his work with trying to he's actually he has a civil case against England, against English government, because in his story he was incarcerated illegally. Well, it was legal for them, but he was at the end of the day, he was incarcerated in a mental institution and then in jail, all because of his race. And so he's fighting that. He and the other lady, her book is a book of she uses a merging of history, Barbadian history, and science fiction. So she calls it she called it high sci for history and science fiction. Anyway, they were the two features, and they sold out their books. Right, Genevieve definitely sold out her books, and the majority of Reverend Larrier's books were sold. We also had other people who bought book tables who were not featured, but they themselves had their books, so they came on board and they sold at the event. So the event started as a book launch for those who passed through Passionate Words, and they had their launch at the event. After the first hour, which was the official launch of these books, they had a showcase. There was a showcase of the other authors. We had authors from other authors from Barbados, other authors from the Caribbean. And so some of them didn't actually showcase their books by being physically present, but they sent their book to us as well, because we have international / regional clients. So yeah, so to answer that question, it was a huge
We're gonna have to wrap up, Robert.
Oh dear.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wrap
All right,
up.
well, let me be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
have to wrap up, but basically,
leave some closing remarks with us as self-published authors out there. Leave a piece of advice for the self-published authors.
All right. Well, we definitely need to do this again, because I had enough time to talk with Meg about long, so we need to do this again. But for any of you who are self-published authors, what I want you to do is do two things. One, believe in yourself and write. Don't care what people think. Again, because of my story, I can tell you, I write erotica because I want to write it, not because, you understand, I write it for the love of myself writing it. So you write your book for you. First thing first. Secondly, Passionate Words is a one-time hub. It is a one-stop shop for you to come and get everything done. If you are in a position where you think you don't know where to go, that's what we do. We are literally here to guide you from concept to completion and beyond. So there is a space. There are spaces in the region. If you don't come to us, there are other places you can go and more than likely help you to get that book out there. I want you to write, and I want you to put the book out there. I want you to enjoy writing, because that by itself is an achievement. By itself, even if no one buys your book, putting the book out there, it is an achievement in and of itself.
I have to agree with you, Robert. I'm so sorry we have to wrap up, but this was such an engaging conversation. We have to make more time to do more of this with you. So we want to thank you for being here with us on Book Club Corner, Robert, CEO and founder of Passionate Words Editing Services, as well as an author, self-published author and editor yourself. And we want to thank you, the viewers, for being here with us today. It was quite an interesting and intriguing conversation with this erotic genre author. And as we say, please keep reaching for the stars, keep writing, and keep looking inward. Retrospection is important. We want to welcome you back next week, Wednesday, as you come back to Book Club Corner every Wednesday right here on Tobago Updates and on Flow and on AMPLIA. We want to see you next week, Wednesday. So don't forget about us and enjoy yourself, take your time, and be kind to each other. See you next week.